Hi, welcome to a brand new video on my channel Smart Software Studio. In this video, we will learn how to create a portfolio website. A portfolio website is basically a website that tells others about us, what we do, what are our skills, and what project have we worked on. The purpose of this website is basically two things. The first is to attract other people to hire us for the skills that we have. For example, if I'm a designer, I'll put up all the designs that I've worked on in my portfolio website, and people out there will check out my portfolio and will think of hiring me based on what they see. The other reason could be if you are looking for a job, your portfolio website can act as your resume, wherein potential employers will check your work on your portfolio website, and based on your work there, they may decide to hire you. So that's what we're going to make. We're going to make a portfolio website wherein we're going to upload all our dev projects there. So let's get started. I'll start by creating a React app for this project. We run the command npm create @latest. This asks us if we want to proceed. Yes, we do. And it asks us for a name of the project. So I'm going to call it portfolio. I'm going to make the project in React.js using JavaScript. And then it's asking me to check out the app portfolio that got created in this folder, and then I will run npm install. That will install all of the dependencies that's needed for this project. And then I'm going to start my dev server using npm run dev. It starts up a dev server at localhost 5173. So I open my app to localhost 5173, wherein I see a boilerplate. And then I open up my app I have opened up my app in Visual Studio Code. So here is the source code of my app. And before I begin, I'm going to clear up a few things. I'm going to empty out app.jsx as well as app.css can persist. I'm going to clear out index.css. The reason being, all the boilerplate code that is here, I don't need it. So I'm just getting rid of it. And now I'll be using Tailwind CSS in this app to help me with all my styling needs. So I'm just checking out my app repository, and I'm here, and now I'll be doing npm install -d Tailwind CSS. This is going to install Tailwind CSS in my app. And then I'm going to initialize Tailwind CSS. So to do that, I do npx Tailwind CSS init. This has initialized Tailwind CSS in my app by creating a file called as tailwind.config.js. So if I now check out my repository, there is a file called as tailwind.config.jsx. And then here in this file, I have to tell it what kind of content should it pick up for building Tailwind files. So here I'm going to mention the files that it needs to work on. So I'll mention HTML, JS, JSX. So most of my files are going to be JSX files. JSX is going to be the files in which I'll be adding my Tailwind classes, and I would need that to be built. And then I'm going to go to index.css. Here I'm going to enter a few commands. Tailwind base, Tailwind components, and Tailwind utilities are the things that I need for this app. And then I now need to tell my app to start listening for changes in those files. So I do npx tailwind css -i, and then I'll give it a path of, this is the path of my index.css file, and I want to tell it to listen to the changes here and output it to an output.css, and to keep watching changes here. This will start a watcher, which means that I have to make sure that this is running so that my classes get reflected properly in my app. And then I have to go to index.html, and here I have to add one more line, which would be basically a link tab with href to this output.css, rel style sheet, and that's it. And my Tailwind setup is complete. Alright, so now that our setup is complete, we will just do a basic check here. So what I did was, I, instead of removing it all, maybe just remove whatever is inside the app function, and let us also remove all of these imports. We don't need them for now. And here I'm going to write a return statement that is going to return a div that prints Smart Software Studio, and I check my app and my line is here, which means that my setup so far is running perfectly. So the design that I have in mind is that on the left hand side would be my name along with my experience and other stuff on the right hand side. So let's get started. So I'm going back to my app, and here this is my parent div, which basically will be having two sections, the left section and the right section. The left section will have my name, some description, and some social links, and the right section will have about, experience, and projects. Alright, so let's start with the left section first, wherein I intend to show my name first. We will start with the content, and then we will go on styling that content. So let me start with the name. The name that I'll be giving for this can be your name or the name of your company. If you're a freelancer, whatever you want, you can place that name here. I'm writing the name of my channel. and then followed by, after the name would come a basic tagline. You're an engineer, but an engineer has a lot of specializations, like some are front-end engineers, some are back-end engineer, some are full stack engineers, while on the other hand some are cloud and database specialists. So whatever tagline you want to give yourself to attract the right audience, you can write that tagline here. So for example, I want to specify that I am a front-end engineer, so I mention that here. And then the line below that, I would write a small description about myself. So I'd write any sentence that I want, any sentence that you want, you can write it here. I build accessible pixel perfect digital experiences for the web. Make sure that whatever description you're putting here, even though it's a single line, should be as attractive and as catchy as possible. And then at the end we would have some social links. All right. So let's start with some basic styling. So I intend to start by adding a background color as the first style, but before we do that, there's one more step that we need to do to make sure our configuration for Tailwind is correct, and that is this, which means that I mentioned that post CSS should consider Tailwind CSS as the plugin, and I'll need to also import Tailwind CSS from Tailwind CSS. And then I go to my app.jsx, and then I add a class which is bg slate 900. So going back to my Tailwind config, I'll change the content from this to this, so that it is a relative path instead of it just having to find those endpoints directly. And now that here I've done it, I can see the color has taken place, but the text is not readable anymore. So to fix that, I'm going to give it a text color of text slate 100, and the text is readable now. And what if I make it 200 instead? Yeah, I think 200 is what I'll be going ahead with. And now the size of this is not the entire height of the screen, so to fix that I'm going to add a class hScreen, and here we've got it covering the entire screen. And now let's start by making two sections out of this content. So this was the other div. This div was supposed to have two sections. One is the left section and the other is the right section. I add a parent to these, and then I give it a class of flex, which would convert it into a flex row, which means there are two columns now, the left and the right. And then I want it to have some margin on the top, so I give it margin. Margin is going to mess with my colors, so instead I say padding. And then I would want it to be in the center of the page and not stick to the left, so I give it justify between justify center. Yeah, it's in the center of the page. Let me see if I can add some gap to it. Yeah, gap is also possible, so we've given it some gap. Let me increase the gap to 20. I think this should be good enough for now. and then we are going to give this a class name wherein we are going to increase the font size of the name to 4 text 4XL increases the font size, and then we'll make it bold. So font semi bold makes it bold, so it got converted to a title. Instead of semi bold, we can actually make it bold. So font bold makes it bolder, and it looks like it's the title of the page now. I want the highlight to be the name and the title, so I'm going to change the font color from text slate 400 to text slate 200 to text slate 400, which made it all darker. And then to bring the focus back to the name, I only give the name and the tagline a text slate of 200. Yep, so only they have that color. And then let's increase the font size of this to text LG and font semi bold. So font semi bold is a bit too much, so maybe let's change it to font medium. Yes, and then I want all of it to have some gap in between them, and the rest of the font sizes to be a little persistent. So to do that, this is the parent of the left side, and here I give it a class of space y4, which adds not here but the parent here, a class of space y4, which adds a distance between all of it. Let's add width to the left and right section each. So I'm making the left section with a width of 48%, and to the right section I am giving a width of 52%. Yep, I think let's adjust the numbers a bit. So making it 40% and making this one 35%. I think yeah, it's adjusted properly for now. Let's add some social links, and maybe we could increase the padding on the top from 20 to 40. Yep, I think this looks better. Now for social links, I want here to be social media icons that I can instead add in its place. And to do that, I'm going to use a library called as Lucide icons. And let's check the guide for installation. I want it for React using npm. This is the command that I want. I copy it, I open a new tab in the terminal, open up my project, and here I do npm install Lucide React. This installs a library with pretty good icons that I can use. All of the list of icons is provided here, and I can check out their names, which helps me import the right icon. The library is installed, so let's import. So I want let's say an icon for LinkedIn. So the icon name is LinkedIn from Lucide. And then to get that icon here, I'm going to write the icon name this way, and the icon got rendered here. And similarly, I want an icon for Twitter and Instagram, so I import those: Twitter, Instagram, and I check the icons have rendered. I want them in a row, so I give them a class of flex, and then I want some horizontal space between them, so space x2 should be enough. It could be 4 as well. Yeah, 4 looks decent. And then this is sticking very close to all of it, so maybe a margin top of 40. 20. And what if I replace it with a padding? Yeah, so padding top of 40. So my icons are here, and now I want these to be clickable, and it should be redirecting to an external link. So we're going to have anchor tags which encapsulates these with href of these leading to my LinkedIn profile. So https://linkedin.com/my username, or whatever your LinkedIn URL is. Similarly, I'll do the same for Twitter and Instagram. And now these are links that redirect to external platforms. Coming back to these sections, let's start with the about section. So I have my about section prepared, and I'm just going to paste the content right here. And here I've pasted the content, and my about section has appeared here, but is looking very cluttered. So to adjust the line height, I add a class leading 5, which has made the line height. Okay, this is not the ideal line height that I would want. Let's break this into different paragraphs. So this first line would be in the first p tag, And so all my 4 paragraphs are now in different p tags. And this is my app.css, which has not been referenced anywhere, and I have an index.css, and here I'm going to add a class for my p tag saying that I want every one of them to have a margin bottom of 1 rem. And yeah, a margin bottom got added to all of it. The line height is still not what I would want. Leading 5 adds a line height, but maybe instead of the parent I should add it on the individual p tags itself. It did add a line height, but not the kind of one we'd want. So let's adjust it to leading 7. Yeah, 7 is too much. 6 is better. So leading 6 looks better than whatever we had before. And we have our about section ready. The next thing that I want here is a section for my experiences. So to add that, I add another section here wherein there will be my experiences, and after this another for my projects. Yes, like this. Let us start with experiences. So I'm going to, experiences means the places that I've worked on previously or the companies that I've worked with previously. If as a freelancer I've collaborated with various customers, here is where I can mention that. And if I'm looking for a job and I have worked with previous companies before, I can mention about that too here. So as I said, I'll be mentioning 2 experiences. So to do that, I would be having a format. The first format would be to mention, it is always important to mention the year you worked at that place. So, and you have to have it in descending order of the timeline. So for example, the company that I worked with in the latest would appear at the top, but the company for which I had worked in the past would appear way down the timeline. So let's start with the latest one. I'll mention a range for these. And here too I would mention years. Yep, just like this. And then post this, you mention the name of the company along with the title you had when you were working there. So let's say my current title is Senior Front-End Engineer, and the company name is Clavio. So I add this here. Similarly, for the previous experience, I mention my designation along with the name of the company, and then post that you enter a brief paragraph or on what work did you do there, what were your responsibilities, what were your day-to-day activities, all that you're supposed to mention here. So I already have it copied and I'm just going to paste it here. And then similarly for the other experience as well, I need to mention what, again I have it copied and I'm just going to paste it here. Alright, so I have two experiences ready with me. I just need to style them now. Looks like the style of my page breaks, but we will fix this. So instead of H screen, let's replace H screen with H full, and it's fixed. So here we have a padding top. I'm putting the padding top here instead, and I'm making padding top and bottom, so replacing PT with PY. Alright, and then this is where the about section ends and this is where the experience section begins. So I want some good space between two sections, so I'm going to have 10 is too less and empty 20 to make it look distinguishable. And then let's get to the styling of it. So our text style for this is not going to change, but we will make it smaller. So we add a class of text sm, and the same would be added here. And then we would like to make the title of the company a little bigger than what it is. So we make it text LG, font medium, and we are going to change the text color to text slate 200, so it now pops up more than the others do. And similarly, this is the class that we're going to add to the company of our previous experience, and it pops up too now. And then these are two different experiences. I want some space between them, so I would add a space y10 and it adds some space between the two. Similarly, between each line of the experience I would also want some space, so space y2 adds some space and makes it more breathable. Similarly for the second experience. Yes, looks so much better now. And let us make sure that the line height is proper. So we've adjusted the line heights too. And now I would also like to add some special keywords to give a gist of whatever I was working on when I was working for that company. So for example, when I was working for my current company, I used certain languages, and so I'm going to add a parent and then a child inside it, wherein for example I used JavaScript as the language here a lot. I want to highlight that. I also have used TypeScript. So basically all the skills that I gained while working, all the skills that I learned and I've used while working for this company, so I mentioned those skills here. And then to make them look good, I want them to appear in a single line, so flex with some space between them, so space x4. And then to highlight them, I would like to change the color that I've given them. So class, I want the text color to be teal 400 and the background to be teal 200. Teal 200 looks very much blurring in the eye. So there is this Tailwind secret formatting that I know of, that I plan to use here. I'm going to add background teal 400/10. This brings it to a very subtle color of teal that I like, with some padding around it, so P1. And I want the borders to be rounded, so rounded MD. Rounded MD is not that much. Rounded LG, full, yeah, rounded full makes it look curved. So instead I can have padding top bottom, which is PY as 1 and PX as 2, so it gives some space to both sides. I can even increase it to 3. Yeah, this makes it better. And I can reduce the font size, so I can make the font size text SM. Yeah, it has a less font than the rest of the, but I can increase the font weight to font medium, and I think it looks cool. So now I'm going to replicate the same style on the rest of the tags. And then, yep, I'm going to add tags to the other experience as well. So I'm just going to copy this section right below the P tag of the other experience, and I'm going to just replace my skills here with whatever I used back then. So I've replaced the skills in the new project as well. And now that we're done with skills, I would also like to add a redirect, that whenever this entire card is clicked, it should lead me to the company that I was working on back then. So I'm going to convert this into anchor tags instead. So and because it's an anchor, it would need an href that would lead to the company's website in both cases. Now they're anchor tags, but the problem is that I'll make this complete URL, otherwise it would be relative to my current path. And then let's encapsulate these within divs. and now the styling is working as it used to. And now we have the project section that we need to look at, and for the project section, we will continue that part in the next video. Along with that, we will also see how to add a quick menu here, wherein we will be having menu items here, and clicking on those menu item would lead us directly to that section instead of us having to scroll our screens. This is all for today's video. Hope you guys learned something new from this video, and I hope that you'll keep a watch on the channel for when the next video arrives. Thank you.